Right, welcome to episode 9 of Hashtag Just Talk. We've got a special episode today. We are joined by two I'm going to say professional footballers. I'm not too sure about that one. We're joined by Anwar Uddin and Steve Clark. Yes, as you can see, it's not the Scotland manager. I'm as disappointed as you lot. Don't worry about that. We're going to start with Stephen Clark. How you doing, mate?
I'm very well, Rob. Thanks for the intro. Excited to be on the show. Obviously, my first podcast. And looking forward to having a chat with you and obviously with Anwar.
Tell us a bit about yourself, Stephen. Where have you been? Where have you played?
I've started my career at West Ham. I was there, I think I joined when I was, 16. When they introduced the 3-year YTS, the 3-year scholarship, we did that along with Anwar. From there, obviously, we had an immensely successful time during that period. I'm sure we'll touch on later. Left West Ham, had a spell, 2.5 years at Southend, moved to Macclesfield and various other non-league clubs.
Great stuff, great stuff. Anwar, it's pretty obvious where you are at the minute. You're the Aldershot Assistant Manager, as we can see from your jumper there. How's it going? How's COVID treating you?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. I have to say, obviously privileged to be working at Aldershot Town, a great football club in the National League. But it's been a very different season, to say the least. But you know what? Just appreciate the fact that elite football is still allowed to progress and continue. Yes, we don't have football fans, which is extremely disappointing because, to be honest, without fans at football stadiums, it's just not the same. But having said that, you know what? At least you can get your football fix, work towards the weekend fixtures and carry on. And hopefully soon we'll get fans back in the stadiums.
Well, we've had some good news today, but we'll have a look and see what happens in the next few weeks. But moving on from that, boys, I must say, I'm going to start this podcast with you talking to you two. That one season we had at Sporting Bangor. There's no words to it, is it? What a year that was. We're going to go into that a bit more, but I just had to mention it. I was dying to say it, honestly. But boys, you were in the same team as Joe Cole and a few very good players who went on to the top of the game. Stephen, who was probably the best player in that group?
Very difficult to say. Immensely talented. Joe, as a young 15, 16-year-old boy, he was magical. The first time I watched Joe play, we played Aston Villa. And I think Joe single-handedly won that game for us. That was the first time I played with him, and obviously watching him develop as a young player, you soon realised all the hype that surrounded him when he walked into the training ground at Chapel Heath. I do remember the day when he brought in his Predator boots. It was this whole mystery around Joe. He's got these strange boots that no one else has got, but he did live up to that expectation. He certainly was, of that group, the best player that I had certainly played with at that age.
Oh, great stuff. And what, other than Joe Cole, who would you say was your favourite?
Honestly, I think the favourite player to play with was Clarkey. He was the fastest white man I've ever seen. Obviously grew up together at Tower Hamlets. But listen, we had so many good players at West Ham at that time. It was incredible. Jermaine Defoe, Glenn Johnson, Michael Carrick. Not only did we have the quality, we had a bit of a team spirit as well. Because don't forget, you live with these lads day in, day out, like literally all day, every day. And listen, it's glamorous. Everyone thinks of it as being glamorous. But Clarkey will tell you, I finished training and they'd give me a Henry Hoover and go, Annie, go on, hoover the 4G indoor pitch. Literally, I'd spend about 2 hours hoovering, and then I'd go to Peter Braybrook, God rest his soul, yeah, Pete, it's done. He'd come in and go, nah, not good enough, Annie. Got to go and do it again. But you know what? Looking back now, obviously it's changed now, but you know what? The life stories going away around the world, because we had such a good team. West Ham were always invited around the world. We played in Dallas, Italy, France. We played against the best in the world, and I'm not just saying this. Obviously, it's evident with the performances and the players that went on to be world stars. But I kid you not, we were like the best team in the world, and it felt like that. And as a centre half at times, it was quite boring because you'd play games and we're like 5-6-0 up. I'm at the back and I'm sort of like standing there watching these like have fun. You know what? Incredible times just to sort of experience that sort of level of football day in, day out. And obviously progressing into the first team squad was an unbelievable achievement. And I look back at sometimes, I think, would I have been better maybe going to a smaller club, maybe getting to this first team? But if I had done that, I would have never have had the experiences that I have. And they're memories that stay with you forever. So it's an amazing time.
Well, I'll get absolutely rinsed by my mates in the comments if I don't mention this, but you are a bit of a Dagenham Redbridge legend. But it's not a name I like to say too well, Dagenham Redbridge. But you obviously played with them through the League Two playoff final. You was there with a conference under John Steele, and you managed to get into League One. What was the feeling with that? That must have been unbelievable.
Yeah, you know what? It was. That was a truly magical time for me. I had a really bad injury at Bristol Rovers. I left Sheffield Wednesday after leaving West Ham. I went to Bristol. And I was injured for about a year and a half. And I really struggled, if I'm honest, to sort of get back to full fitness. And I was living in Bristol. So for me, I wanted to get back to London. John rang me up when he got the Dagenham job. And he said, listen, I want you to be my first full-time player. And I think we can get into the league. When I went and saw him at Dagenham, I saw the ground. I thought, wow, he's got lofty ambitions because Dagenham was a mediocre conference national side. Hadn't ever been into the EFL, got close. I signed because I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be near my family, and I wanted to fall back in love with football. 6 years later, we ended up in League One, playing against and so on.
Yeah, I think your managerial experience, the way you play, kind of rubs off on John Steele a bit. We always used to put it in the channels and stuff like that. It's when you said you was the first full-time player, how would that have worked if you was going to a team which were full of full part-timers, but you was full-time?
Yeah, so obviously at Dagenham when I went there, their whole squad was part-time. But what John Steele wanted to do is he wanted to transition from part-time to full-time, and he knew he had to do that slowly because ultimately, if you haven't got the money to pay people full-time wages, you can't go full-time. So he changed his whole approach. Rather than going with experience, he got young players who are hungry to come in on low wages and train every day. And all of a sudden, we got loads of young kids from like the lower leagues, 2, 3, 4 divisions below. Craig McCall-Smith went on to play for Peterborough, Brighton and Scotland. Blackett again went with him at Peterborough. Paul Benson went on to play for Charlton. So still he had this magical way of finding rough diamonds, lads that were hungry, flying around in non-league. And it taught me a lot, because obviously I'd come from the top all the way down. But what it did teach me that there's some good players in non-league. And I'm talking about the lower depths of non-league that if put in the right environment with the right guidance and support can actually, have a career in the game. And we proved that at Dagenham. And listen, we had some amazing success. And I even got Steve to sign Clarkey, which was good. I think, to be fair, he scored probably one of the best goals I've ever seen in my life. Goalkeeper got the ball, just volleyed it as a clearance. Clarkey standing at the halfway line and just volleyed it back. And I thought, what the hell is he doing? He went straight in.
Well, you've got your own magical goal against Bradford, haven't you? You can tell us a bit more about that. Yeah,
listen, I've got a few goals. I'm not a few actually. I've scored a few over my time as a centre half. But yeah, some pretty special ones.
Fair enough. When obviously when I was in the same league as Leyton Orient, I remember Russell Slade saying they used to hate playing Dagenham Redbridge just because of the way it was ugly football, but it was effective. Stephen, you was on loan at Dagenham for not a very long period of time. But how, when I've trained with you and I've worked with you at clubs, you're very much, you like to get it on the floor, play it from the back. How hard was it for you to do that under John Steele?
It was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to accept. And ultimately, I didn't accept it, which is why my time was very short there. But the success that John had is because of the team and the individual responsibilities of those players in that team. You can call it route one, you can call it direct football, you can call it whatever you want. When you have 11 men that know what they're doing and stick to a specific game plan, you obviously see the results of that way of playing. And if you have someone who deviates from that system, you're going to cause a problem for, you're not going to play, basically. And that style of play was something that I just was not used to. And as a football player, it's not that you resist it. It's not easy to do it if you're not used to doing something. It's not that you can't do it. It's just it's the better players. Ultimately, at that stage of my career, I found it very difficult to slot into that side and do the things that John was asking me to do. But you don't appreciate someone and what they've achieved until you've gone. So I'm a huge fan of John and what he has achieved. So yeah, that was my very small but significant time at Dagenham Redbridge. Yeah.
So why was it so short? I obviously know you didn't agree with the style of play and stuff like that, but why did that come to an abrupt end? Was there a word's had?
It was. I remember John. We were away at Stevenage, I think it was, and beautiful pitch. The atmosphere was great. The warm up was fantastic, and I remember receiving the ball and wanting to play the ball to the forward or inside to the central midfielder. So inside, central midfielder, naturally you leave it on his right foot, and he plays it down the line into the face. What John wanted you to do was not to play inside, not to play into the forward, but for me to get it out my feet and put it into space. Now, for me, particularly coming from West Ham, we were playing to the front man. You play to your centre half. You play to everyone who's on the pitch. Everyone's an option. But when you're further down the leagues you go, the less options you have. And the cultural change in the way you play football when it comes down to results, which is what John still was there to do, which is to produce results. You do it the manager's way, or you're out the door, basically. And I found it very difficult to play that style of football in such a I wasn't used to it, and found it very difficult. So I did enjoy my time there. I did particularly enjoy training over the back on the mud pit. It was literally mud behind the new stand that is there now. And talk about that was an experience. I mean, going from playing on pitches over at West Ham to then plying your trade literally on the mud behind the goal was I couldn't believe it when I first see it. But the team had massive success. You can't knock John for what he's done. It was incredible.
Now you've become manager. When you was a manager at Wingate and Finchley, and you've been assistant managers to Anwar, and you've been at various other clubs. I won't go into it. It would be a real day. Do you actually regret, having words with John Steele about it now, or do you just?
Of course. I mean, when you're playing, you're in your own little world, and you think, as a footballer, in many senses, you don't live in the real world. You're in this place with, you're playing football, you're earning your money playing football. It's very glamorous. You've got an inflated ego. You think you're better than what you are. You think you know more than what you do. And that was where I was. I was very young, very naive, still very immature, and that was one of the issues that I struggled with personally. And all of those, if you want to call them, I call them failures. Those moments where I didn't do as well as I should have done, you certainly now use them on the other side of the game, and you certainly appreciate football more so ever than I ever did when I was playing. So those experiences, those failures, those moments where you think, yeah, what was I doing? I can't believe I was doing that. How difficult it must have been to manage me. You use those experiences when you go into the literally the other side of football, because it is no longer about you and yourself and the little small world that you live in. It's about the team. It's about what is good for the team. It's the only thing that matters.
Great stuff, Steve. Anwar, I'm just quite interested because the whole Aldershot situation was a bit bizarre when you first went over there. You know, when you got offered the assistant manager's job, you looked like you was going into the Conference South or Conference North. So, what my question was going to be, what was the expectation going into that season?
That was a pretty strange scenario, to be honest. Anyone who's interested in management, I think you have to understand that whenever you get an opportunity, it's probably going to be at a place where things have gone wrong, where you're struggling, and the club needs a lift. The club was relegated. Aldershot, traditionally a Football League club, we were relegated, and we were actually a Conference South club. So when we got the job, they gave us a small budget and said, get into the National League. We started to recruit accordingly. You know, young players. I remember myself and Clarkey going to watch the Metropolitan Police against Tunbridge Angels, and you know, we watched the game. Some great young players. One in particular, Ethan Chislett. I thought he was amazing. Got into the Aldershot position, and then they're the type of players that we had to go and sign. You know, young, hungry players that wanted an opportunity at a higher level. So we signed the likes of Ethan Chislett. He's now in League One scoring goals. But that was what we had to do. And then literally 3 weeks before the start of the season, we got the call to say Gateshead have gone bust, you're in the National League. So last year was all about, okay, this is a gift, you know, let's finish as high as we can. But ultimately, we stay in this division and we build and we progress, hopefully, into a top 10 National League side. And this year we try to continue progressing. But I have to say, yeah, that initial period of unknown was crazy because literally we just didn't know where we were going to be. So I was talking to players and I was saying, look, I want you to sign, but we don't know what league we're going to be in. And for so many players, it was like, okay, great, but I'm talking to Yeovil, I'm talking to Notts County, I'm talking to Wrexham. And it's hard to compete because ultimately, got to be honest. But you know what? The lads we did bring in wanted to play for us. They were all hungry. And you know what? Some of them were amazing because they were like, look, I love the club. I really like what you're doing. I want to work with you. Regardless of where you are, I'm going to come and play. So no, strange start. But, you know, we found our feet and hopefully this year could do as well as we can.
Yeah, great stuff. Even when the season did finish, it didn't even look like it was anywhere near the relegation zone anyway. So congratulations on that and good luck this season. But my next question is, what is the biggest difference? Because obviously when you just sporting, we were only doing like 2 days a week. On one of them days, we were on a minibus going to Southend on some crazy away day. But, you know, you always said to me in the minibus, oh, I'd love to do this full time. I need to get back into it. I miss it. Now you're actually there full time, but you're actually an assistant manager. Right, I know you have done it at Barnet, but to go from full time to part time, now back to full time, probably I know it's the same sort of role, but, you know, this is a more secure role, more advanced role. What's the difference now that you are full time?
You know what? Everything. The detail is unbelievable. The quality of players, you know, the ability to work with players every single day is a gift. I mean, when we was at step 5, you do 1 session a week if you're lucky, you know. And do you get your whole squad? No. People turn up late. There's just a myriad of destruction, of chaos, of confusion. But you know what? You do the best you can. The good thing about the level in which I'm at now is that, you know, players are played. It's their job. So it's done seriously. So everyone's on time, everyone's fit, everyone's ready, and everyone wants to progress. So as a coach, as a manager, as a person who wants to develop players and develop men, it's a fantastic opportunity. And you know what? I know it sounds a little cheesy, if you like, and I think Clarkey will be able to relate, but football is all I've known. You know, since literally leaving Reigns Foundation at the age of 16, I've been in full-time football. So when you're out of it, you miss it. When you're out of it and you're doing part-time, you get your little bit of a fix. But you know what? If you ask anyone who's been involved in football full-time and you say to them, what's your utopia, what would you love to do? It would be to be at a club full time, get on the grass every day, work with players, and you know what? Work towards those wins at the weekend. That's what it's all about. So I'm really grateful that I've got the opportunity.
Clarkey, just listening to Anwar there, is it giving you the bug to come back and find a club, or?
Look, the bug is always there. Football is. I tell everybody, football has given me everything that I have. Football, that time at West Ham was such a significant part of my life that when you actually grow up and you reflect and look back at what the skills, the experiences, the knowledge, the understanding of being part of a team, all of those little things that you get from that. But when you're in it, again, you never grasp that you're at West Ham, that you've got an opportunity to play as a professional footballer. You just love football. You're not thinking, certainly I think Anwar will agree, you know, you wasn't thinking of being a millionaire, you wasn't thinking of being you just loved football and you were there, you were in it. So I love football. I'm whenever I can go and watch a game, I'll go and watch a game. It doesn't matter what level. I love seeing young players develop. I love the process of coaching, seeing players learn, seeing players understand, seeing players then implementing those patterns of play on the football pitch. Football is, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be where I am or doing what I am today if it wasn't for football. Literally, football has given me most of all the things that I love and appreciate in life.
Well, cheers for that, Anwar. On to a sour note now, but from the highs of football to the lows, Wrexham 1, Aldershot 0. You mentioned in your press conference after, well, I say press conference, it was just a quick interview. You mentioned you lacked a bit of quality in the final thirds. I'm quite baffed why my phone hasn't rang and I'm sitting there unemployed. But need a striker, you know it's cool. Was this just was this just a really frustrating afternoon where you didn't take your chances?
Yeah, listen, Wrexham are a decent National League side. They come off the back of a decent win. I watched them against Hartlepool where they won 1-0. We knew their strengths and I fancied us on a day. If I'm honest, I don't think we were nowhere near our best offensively. I thought we defended well out of possession. We restricted them to little. You know, they hardly had any chances. Our keeper made a great save early on, but they had a great goal. It's a 25-yard first-time strike. And sometimes, went through it today, really, you know, like sometimes you look at a game and you go, you know, that was going to be a 0-0 or a 1-0. And they got their goal because their lad, ball's come to him, 25 yards out. First time, he smashed it, bottom corner. Sometimes you got to go, you know what, credit them because that's a great strike. Yes, we could have done a little bit better. Yes, we could have pressed. Yes, we could have this. But sometimes it happens. And listen, in football, if you don't score, you can't concede. And the best you can hope for is a draw. And that's what I think that game sort of was all about. We didn't score, they did. So fair play to them. But, you know, we now work towards Chesterfield away on a Tuesday night, which is going to be, that's going to be worse than Southend Manor away.
That sounds right up my street.
But you know what, this is what it's all about. It's about, you know, right, what's the next challenge? You know, we come off the back of some great little results, beating Notts County. We drew against Maidenhead, beat Altrincham as well. So a little 3-game unbeaten run. You know what, if you don't win them all, I always say to the lads, listen, if we're not going to win today, stay in the game. And you know what, 5 minutes to go when the ball went up, we were still in the game 1-0. You can nick a little late win. So listen, our efforts now turn towards Chesterfield away, another massive club. But you know what? I buzz off just being in these stadiums on a touchline. You know, there's no fans, which takes the gloss off it all. Hopefully that will change in the next few weeks. But another big challenge that I'm looking forward to. Every game is a big challenge at our level.
Of course, I was going to ask on how COVID has affected Aldershot. I can imagine it's had a big impact on a lot of non-league clubs. But when you mentioned you watched Hartlepool a few weeks ago and stuff like that, for yourself and Danny to now do this scouting work, has it not become a lot more easier just the fact that every game is live streamed?
Yeah, no, that's easy. I mean, to be honest, one of the differences you mentioned about non-league and sort of my league, if you want to call it elite level, is the technology. So we've got platforms where you can watch every single game online. You've got stats, you've got different sort of organisations that send you loads of information about each team. And to be fair, if I ever needed another pair of eyes, I'll just get Clarkey on the blower and say, right, get yourself down to Bromley or Chorley or wherever it is and get down and watch a game, because I think that's key. I mean, one thing I've learned playing with all the managers that I've played with is their attention to detail. Know your opposition, know the league, and know players. You know, at any time, I need to be able to go, right, I've lost a left back. I need to have 3 potential left back that we can go and sign. And to be honest, with myself and the gaffer, you can't do it all. So you need help. And that's why when you've got friends you can trust that can go and go, listen, Annie, this is a good lad, you need to sign him, or listen, these are a good side, you need to do X, Y, Z. You know, that sort of help is massive to us because we're a small club with a small staff team.
How has COVID infected training and match day preparation? I can imagine it is quite frustrating, but you know, you're not able to use a changing room. I can imagine the travel. You know what it's like on a minibus. Well, I've been there with you, where you're just ripping each other, and you know you're having a great laugh. But now, you know, I was texting you just before the game. You said you was travelling up by train on first class. I can imagine you're all sitting there with masks on your face, being safe. But how does that affect the day-to-day preparation?
Yeah, you know what? It's not easy because, like I said, you go into work every day and you don't even know what training ground we've got, what's closed, what's not closed. You can't do X, Y, Z. You know, you're not allowed to change in the changing rooms. You've got to have social distance aspect. It is a lot to take on, and you've got to do so much. People don't realise the detail that goes into preparation. So before a game, everyone needs to be tested. Everyone needs to do certain things. Yeah, we went to Dover, for example, away, and there was like maybe about 8 showers and we could only use 1. At the weekend at Wrexham, only 4 people could shower at a time, and we had a train to get back to. So people were showering in 4s and we had a train in half an hour. So those are little silly things that you kind of think they're not ideal. But you know what? Like I said, as long as football is still happening, it's still continuing, it's a necessary evil, isn't it? I mean, if you said to me, right, stay home and wait till things are ideal, no chance. Listen, as long as you can get 11 men on the pitch against an opposition with a ball, that's good enough for me.
Great stuff. So, Stephen, since leaving Wingate, you haven't really been up to much. What is I've already asked what's kind of coming up and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not stirring the pot or anything, but I know you have dived into scouting and stuff like that before. I've watched players at Orient with you before. You've gone to Charlton. You've had links everywhere. You know, what is next in the pipeline for Stephen Clark? Is scouting, or because I know you don't have as much time anymore, but is maybe scouting or something like that right up your street these days?
Look, I'd always keep an eye on various jobs and job websites and things like that. It's very difficult. Life catches up with you, and you eventually got to. You got to get your bread and butter. You've got to put food on the table. You've got to go and work, which is something I've always worked. When I stopped playing football, but for me, I've been involved in non-league football, and I've never had the opportunity to go into full-time football. I think one of those reservations I have is the insecurity of it. What is the end goal? You know, what's the pathway I want to take if I pursue that a career in full-time football? But for me, I can talk about my experiences in non-league football with Anwar, with yourself. They've only ever been good. Sporting Bengal was where it all started for us. Training 1 day a week in Stepney Green with a bag of balls and bibs and cones. And, you know, watching the players week in, week out, go from being, a group of geezers just thrown together to actually becoming a team and performing on a Saturday was, again, it's one of the things that keeps you coming back. The football bug will always be, I'll always be thinking, I'm always looking at different jobs. I apply for different jobs. But as you know, trying to get into football is it's everyone's dream. So you're not entitled to it because you've been involved in it, and you're not entitled to it because you played. There's loads of different things that people are looking for. So for me, I'm enjoying very much doing the scouting for Anwar. It's something I think I'm quite good at. I think one of the benefits is that I think me and Anwar see the game very similar. We like the similar type of players, so he understands my thoughts and views on certain players, and he can trust whether I say to him, look, this is a player that you probably need to look at, or no, probably not for you at this moment in time. So at the moment, I've got other things that I'm focused on. Football at the moment is something that I do. It's my passion, but it's probably not going to be something that's going to feature in my life for certainly for the next probably 12 months.
Cool. Clarky, to be honest with you, you've always reminded me of a bit of a Brian Clough character. It's a shame you're not as good as a manager. But touching on that, what happened at Wingate? We had this conversation before the podcast, make sure it was all right to mention it. But obviously I was working there with you. It all seemed, as things do with Stephen Clark, they all seem things are going really well. And then you get the phone call to say, don't come back to work.
Right. Well, first and foremost, my experience at Wingate was brilliant. My assistant manager, Danny Foster, who's close friends with Anwar, we put everything that you could possibly put into that opportunity. Unfortunately, I always blame myself. I'd never ever blame the chairman, the players. I take full responsibility for how everything pans out and how everything ends. So Wingate and Finchley Football Club, first and foremost, is a tremendous football club in the non-league. The facilities that they have, the way the club is run, the football pitch, everything is there for success. And unfortunately, we had a difficult game up. We got knocked out. Look, we got knocked out to Malden, who eventually had the team of the FA Cup. I think they got. So we had a differing of opinions, myself and the chairman, and ultimately it leads to my dismissal. So I don't have any regrets. I mean, would I change anything? There's plenty of things I would change. Certainly the way or the things that I asked of the players. I think, when you come away from it and you analyse everything, you look at yourself and what you could have done better. There was a million things we could have changed. But, did I give everything? Yes. Did I go over and beyond? Absolutely. Did I give the players every bit of encouragement and help? Did I create an atmosphere for them to thrive? Yes. Did we get it right in terms of tactics and the way we wanted to play? Probably not. And ultimately, that's the manager's fault. And I will not change that. I certainly will look at the way I manage the players, what I asked of them in future, if an opportunity ever came and it was right for me. Yeah.
Great stuff, mate. Great stuff. Anwar, from being a man at Aldershot to being the man in the offices, you do a lot of. Whenever I'm walking through my own office, I'm always looking up at the Sky Sports camera. I'm always seeing you the Sky Sports camera. Sorry, the telly. There's no Sky Sports camera in my office. I'm always walking up at the telly and seeing you on the TV with Sky Sports News. What is that all about? I know you do a lot of stuff for Fans for Diversity. Would you like to just sell us a pitch on what you are doing off the pitch?
Yes, obviously. Listen, I've been in the game a long, long time. You know, leaving sport at 16, a 20-odd year career, and I'm passionate about football. I love the game, but I'm also passionate about equality and diversity. Everyone that knows me knows my dad's from Bangladesh, mum's English, got mixed heritage. I've had a unique upbringing and I've had a unique experience as a human being, living in East London, having a football career, being one of the very few British Asians to play football. So when I retired, the easiest was to go into the coaching role and do a bit of coaching and managing, but I wanted to see if I could actually contribute towards positive change, do some work with Kick It Out, Show Racing Red Card, the PFA, whoever would take me, just to get out and about and talk to players and fans about what racism is, what discrimination is, and actually give people insight into what it's like for some people who are different. And so 5 years ago, I got a role working for the Football Supporters Association, working with fans to, in short, make football as inclusive as possible. So how can we make it welcoming? Because everyone loves football in this country, everyone. But how many people actually feel comfortable and confident going to watch football in their local football team in their local stadiums? You know, probably not as much. And I asked the question, do our stadiums reflect, do the terraces reflect the cities and towns in which they sit? And most of them don't. So it's about working with football fans to make sure that, if you go and watch Orient, West Ham, Preston, Sunderland, how can we make it so that everyone there watching feels welcome, feels comfortable, feels confident? We don't want to sanitize football. We love football for what it is, the rivalry, the banter. But it should be a place where you can take your kids. You can be able to go and feel comfortable and confident if you're black, Asian, gay. It should be for everyone. And that's what the campaign's all about. It's about working with football fans to make it as inclusive as possible. And we've got a fund attached to the campaign. So if anyone wants any money to do some cool stuff, get in touch. And they're the reasons why you probably see me on the screen a lot talking around inclusion.
Yeah, it's great stuff that you do. I think the main thing that highlights that for me was that Arsenal tournament that we had at the Emirates on the Astro, just outside of it. We played against the England homeless team. There was another gay football team there. There was a women's team there. There was, I don't know what we was, but we were something in it. But but after the game, we was all socialising after, and you do meet some great people from some great walks of life that have got some really good stories. So I really do agree with what he's doing. It's fantastic stuff. Just moving it on. I was going to talk about a few games this week, but I thought we'd just cover the West Ham game because you are both West Ham boys. The Carlos Tevez derby, I like to call it. Sheffield United 0, West Ham United 1. Stephen, what did you think on the game?
I wasn't surprised by the result. I think Sheffield are finding it very difficult at the moment. I've got no worries about them coming out of this patch. I think that manager's worth his weight in gold. West Ham at the moment are just reinvigorated, aren't they? They are playing with belief. They're playing for each other. When you do get that, that's the you can always tell from Moyes' his body language, his tone of voice. He's very confident in what his team are capable of, and the players reflect that. It's taken him a long time to get there, and to be honest, I was sceptical because I always am with managers that go back to a football club. Invariably, it doesn't work out. Mourinho is a case in point, but I must say West Ham have been trying to break into that be a top side, the top 8 side for a long time now. And looking at the team, I think we're still another 10 games away. I know we've had a good start, but you've got to take into account the situation with COVID, the fans. There's lots of different things that you've got to look at as to, can West Ham sustain it? I think they can with the team that they've got. They've got key players playing very well. So for me, I think Moyes at the moment is doing a good job. We can't get carried away. We haven't hit Christmas yet. We'll see how we come out of the Christmas period. And I like to assess where we are from that point. Yeah.
And what West Ham fans are getting quite excited, and with the results that are going on at the minute. Me personally, I looked at that tough run of results and thought, they're done for. I'm not going to get nothing out of it. How far can David Moyes take this team?
I actually really worried about him last year because I thought it looked really bad. I thought they was in a perilous condition. So fair play, for their form towards the end of last season. But listen, West Ham, I think, should always be at the top half of the table. They should always be a team that's capable of beating anyone on our day. I look back at all the years. I mean, me and Clarkey watched all the games. Then we were fortunate enough to be involved in the squads. We've had mercurial players. We've had match winners. You look over the years, the Canyos, the Payets, and the Coles and the Carricks that we've all discussed. We've always been a team that's been capable. I don't think we're at that level at the minute. I think we do lack world class players. But you know what? They come as a premium. So to be honest, with what he's got, current form and current results have been very, very good, and he's impressed me. So long may it continue. But I'm hopeful for a decent future for West Ham, and they've got to start avoiding that bottom half of the table, which they've been around for the last couple of years, which is no good.
Clarkey, whenever I see West Ham fans on social media or I talk to them, especially when David Moyes come in the first time, it was like, oh, he's not part of the West Ham way. I think that's an old myth. What is the West Ham way? You support them as a kid. You've played for them. What is the West Ham way, Stephen?
That's a good question. Good question. The West Ham way, from what I understand and what I've always been taught, and Tony Carr was the one that used to just he didn't say it, but his sessions were geared towards a particular way of playing, which was you get the ball down on the floor and you play forward. Can you play one touch? Can we get the ball into the box? Can we play attacking football? It wasn't it wasn't something that confused you. It wasn't what are we doing? We all knew what we're doing because when we would train, your sessions were set up to accommodate what you would do and then go out on a match day. So the West Ham way for me is about playing good football. People, can say good football is when we get it down on the floor and it's the right way, and we want to play out from the back. You know what? Football, you design a way of playing around the players that you've got. If your players are good at, for example, putting the ball down the line, and you've got a forward who likes to run in the channel, then that's got to be a strength. If you've got players that like to play, you've got midfielders that are comfortable on the ball, then you obviously play through your strengths. At West Ham, we had incredible players on the ball in all areas of the pitch. So for us, certainly growing up, the only way I knew of playing football, it's not that I was something I was knowledgeable of or even knew that I was doing, was you just did what you was taught. And what we were taught to do was to get the ball down on the floor and play attacking football. So if you want to call that the West Ham way, then that's open to interpretation. But for me, the West Ham way, the only way to play football is to win the game. How you do that it matters how the manager wants to play. But for me, it's about winning. For me personally, I want to win the game of football. You do that ugly, you do that nice. You set up against your opponent to win the game. So the whole West Ham thing, I understand because players, fans certainly want to see a particular type of football. I think Moyes, with certainly what he did at Everton, he had lots of time. He could do what he wanted to do. So the West Ham way, it's a bit vague for me. I don't quite understand what it is, but that's my take on it.
Well, Stephen, you've mentioned winning, and I'm going to move it on to winning the Premier League. You know, Spurs have beaten City this weekend. Can Jose Mourinho do it? Can he break that curse of Tottenham not winning anything?
I've always Mourinho for me is the best manager. I think he will be, once he retires, he will replace Alex Ferguson as the best manager. Certainly with Mourinho's pedigree and what he's done and the mindset that he brings, Tottenham, whether they have the durability to see it out and to beat Liverpool, I'm not sure. I would like to see Tottenham do it, even being a West Ham fan. I'm a big fan of Harry Kane. I think he's out there on another level. But certainly what Mourinho is used to doing is winning games of football. And I do believe that it will go close, but I think they would just lose out. And I think Liverpool will win the Premier League. I think Tottenham will finish second. And I think it will be Chelsea in third. That's my prediction.
Anwar, yourself?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Liverpool are on another planet at the minute. I was talking to them, the staff today at Aldershot, because one of the really impressive things for me is the sign of a great team is when you lose your best players and you can still perform at an incredible level. And I think if you look at Liverpool's squad in the last few weeks, you know, they've got some very, very good players missing. And even when they're in Europe, they rotate. But everyone seems to be able to come into a system that works, that's effective. James Milner last night plays right back, and you could just say, wow, you know, he looks like a young 21 fullback who's up and down. You know, they've lost the best centre back in the world, but the centre backs that have taken their place, they don't look bad. But for me, yes, that's good players, but actually, what Klopp's doing there is something that's above the line. That's something bigger than players. That's systems, that's tactics, that's philosophy. So for me, Liverpool are the team to beat.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. From Stephen mentioned on Harry Kane being obviously he is one of the best, probably the best striker in the world at the minute. One on the rise as well, Anwar, is Calvert-Lewin. You know, I physically watched you rip a striker's shirt off during a pre-season match. I think it was with Redbridge at home or Barkingside. I'm not too sure. How would you deal with Calvert-Lewin? Because he seems to have it all. He's got the hold-up play, he's got the speed, he's got the intelligence. How would you deal with a player like that yourself?
Mate, I would love the opportunity to deal with someone like that. I actually was lucky enough to play against Harry Kane when I was at Barnet and Spurs came down to Underhill. We actually won 4-2. Spurs had a really young side. Then played left back, Harry Kane. But listen, these players, they're machines. They're fit, they're strong, they've got it all. But for me, as an ex-player, I look at these players and think what a privilege it would be to just be on the same pitch as some of these players. So listen, I'd love to play against him. Listen, if he got the better of me, so be it. But he'd go home with a few bruises.
Definitely, I can imagine so. I can imagine. I can imagine when Harry Kane lost to an Anwar Uddin side, he probably looked at himself in the mirror and thought, if I can't turn this around now, it's not worth it.
Log. That's what it was called in training, right? You just don't go near Anwar in training, right? The moment you're near him, you could evade him, yeah? But this long extended toe might even come out and just clip you. Just on your ankle and you're down on the floor, mate. You're out for a week. You just don't go near Anwar in training.
I've been lucky enough not to be on the end of one of them tackles. But, boys, I'm going to leave the football there. I can't not have you in the podcast and not talk about that one season we had at Sporting Man Goal. What a year it was. I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd ever be involved in a funnier season ever. Stephen, have you had much luck with minibus doors? You still ripping them off and blaming other people for it?
No, Crony. I've learnt my lesson from that, mate. You don't mess around with a minibus door, do you? Not on a cold night in where was it? Chesham?
It was the 22nd of December. It was raining very heavy. You wanted to pop in Tesco. You've dragged me out the bus. As you've dragged me out, you've dragged the door with it. Poor Jordan and Toya were going down the motorway at 11 at night after being slapped 9-0 away.
That's what it's all about. The memories.
But yeah, touching on that, it's Anwar, what did you learn from that whole Sporting Bengal scenario?
You know what? It was an amazing experience. So you know what? I learned a lot about myself because looking back, right, people say opportunity. You know, people say there's not opportunities in management and coaching and this and that and the other. We literally took the team that were the worst team in the worst league in the English pyramid. And I thought to myself, what a challenge. Like, what an opportunity to learn. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be tough. And people looked at me. I remember when I got the job, people were ringing me up going, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And I thought to myself, what an exciting challenge. That this is exactly what I want to do. And obviously I've got a team, Clarkey, you, Batesy, Imral, and what a season. And literally I've had some amazing seasons at different clubs and had an amazing season at Aldershot last year. But I have to say, like, that year at Sporting, mate, some of the memories. I mean, minibus, the ball hanging off, driving down the motorway. Me and Clarkey, this is what people don't understand. Like, in life, in coaching, in football, you get out what you put in. We were literally driving back to a coaching depot in the middle of Tower Hamlets at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I remember every single time we got there and I was like, oh, Clarkey, get out. You had to undo the padlock. We had to put the coach in at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Then we had to get home. And I remember every single time we'd be coming home from somewhere crazy and we just have this look at what are we doing? But you know what? The night we beat Bowers 1-0, we went on to...
It was unbelievable, yeah.
All that sort of stuff makes it worthwhile because, like I said, we had a team literally full of random people in London. I remember Yassin turned up on his bike. Just turned up on his bike. I remember going past the chicken shop at PFC and there was a load of lads going, what have you been over there? I was playing football. Come along. And I ended up starting a couple of them at the weekend. But the thing is about that club was on its knees. And I'm not being disrespectful, but it was. We created a foundation. We had a great run in the cup. We finished mid-table. And you know what the best thing is? All those players, or the majority of those players, went on to play for better teams. But I guarantee you, if you go back to the squad and ask them about that year, they would always cherish that time because, yes, it was crazy, but what an unbelievable experience. And you know what? For me, that's what it's all about. And I challenge any coach or manager, you know what? If you want to be the best you, go and take the jobs that no one wants. Go and do it. You know what? You'll learn about yourself. You'll improve as a coach. You'll improve as a person. And you know what? People look at that. And like I said, after the jobs I've done, people always ring me because they know I will not say no to any challenge. And obviously to have a team like you guys around me was amazing. And I look back at that and I genuinely think that is probably one of the biggest achievements of my career because, listen, to take on a team like that and do what we did was different class.
Yeah, it was a great year, wasn't it? I loved it to bits. But, you know, what's the difference in looking over your shoulder now and, you know, on a February freezing cold at Stansted away, I'm the only substitute there. I haven't run in about 3 years. And now you're looking over your shoulder at Ross McCormack. He's sitting behind you, ready to come on and score the winner. You know, I think you've done very well when you're pushing on, which is great. But, you know, do you ever just wish you could go back and just do it all again?
Listen, I might speak to Ross McCormack and say, look, do you fancy Sporting Bengal Part 2? Try and get some firepower over to East London. But you know what? Those were the funny times. I remember there was a few games where I'm looking at the watch and it's 10-3. I'm going, Craney, you got to go and goal, mate. And I remember
that one. No gloves, nothing.
I remember you putting the goalkeeper's jersey on. I'm looking at Clarkey and I'm thinking, Craney's got to go in and we've got 10 men. And then literally the door slams open and then there's 3 lads that turn up. They all get dressed and we go out and we beat Southend Manor 3-2 and I get sent off. So that's what I mean, like that sort of stuff for me. And I said this to Clarkey. I remember saying it to Clarkey, like, if you can do that, you can do anything.
100%, 100%. I'd like to touch on that one night in Blackpool. It's up there with Istanbul for that performance. I know we lost the game, but for anyone listening, Orient v Blackpool were doing a boycott of their...
That was your moment. That was your moment, Craney.
I haven't kicked a ball since. I'll never play again. But for anyone listening, it was Blackpool v Orient at the last game of the season at Blackpool away. And the fans were just doing a boycott. So Anwar at Fans for Diversity had put a game together where basically just gave them something to watch and put some money in and we just raised a bit of money for charity. So we're playing against all these ex-professionals. Peter Clark was playing centre-half. I think he was their captain. Big lad, about 7 foot. He probably didn't even see me. He's that big. But we're 2-0 down. The ball's just come to me. I've dropped my shoulder, and I one touch. Don't know how I've done it. I've run. I haven't slept in about 24 hours. I was hungover as anything. I had about 4 beers before the game in a big Subway, and then I managed to score. And then 2 minutes later, I'd done it again and skied it. But after that, I had to retire. But what a moment that was!
Mate, what a moment! I mean, Peter Clark was playing in the league, and he must have thought, "I'm going to turn up for this game, get me boots, and have a laugh." And he got run ragged by a Crano.
He's got his little fat thing running about 2 miles an hour.
About take the moment, mate. Yeah, a little terrier. He'd probably never come up against anything like you, mate.
Well, you know, I'm not normally.
He's underestimated you, and you've nipped round him, and you've finished like Alan Shearer.
But yeah, what a memory that was. But I'm going to leave it on my last question. I've always seen you two as like in football. Look, for anyone who knows me, I've stolen a living in my football career. I used to. If it weren't for Anwar, on my CV, I've played semi-professional football. You know, anyone who looks at me, they can't even think I can play football, and they'd be right. But jokes aside, you know, you two are really good mates. You're really close. Do you think you two will ever come together again and work together?
Yeah, listen, I think, you know what? I've been in the game a long, long time, and I hope to be in it a lot longer. And the crazy thing about football, it is a little bit of a circus. You're in, you're out. It's one job, your next job. Listen, a few years ago, we was at Sporting Bengal 5 years ago. If you'd have said to me on a cold night when we were on our way home that I'll be in the National League in 5 years, I'd have gone, no way. So listen, in another 5 years, who knows? We could be the management team of an international country. And you know what? You laugh, but stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened.
Well, you know, it's only something we can dream on. But
yeah, look, I've got no doubt that, you know, something will materialise somewhere. But Anwar's doing a great job now at Aldershot. You know, touch wood, that lasts for many years. I'd like to see, you know, that happen and work out for you there. I think you got, you know, Danny Sells doing a good job. I think you work well together. But you know, if you're ambitious, you're obviously going to want your own gig somewhere, and definitely will be clubs that, you know, would like to have Anwar's services. So, for me, you know, certainly something in the future. There's a few clubs that me and Anwar always talk about. We won't mention who they are, but we feel that we've got loads to offer. We love the game, and you know, without football, you know, it's a good saying. Justin Gardner, I got this from. You know, he used to say some things, and that's a manager. Yeah, he's got his ways of doing things, but you know, this is someone who absolutely loves football, and he's actually getting the results now at Barking that probably he deserves. So, you know, I know we've gone off on something else there, but Justin, you know, he's another one that's doing really, really well at Barking. But I'm certainly looking forward to working with Anwar. I don't know where that will be, but you know, he's got his job work, you know, cut out at Aldershot at the moment. So good luck with that.
Well, chats, we're going to wrap it up there. Hopefully, I can steal a living off one of you again soon. But guys, thanks for coming on. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Love it, Crano.
Love it, Crano. You legend.
All right, lovely. Cheers, boys. Thanks for that.
See you, mate.